Hello again, everyone. Today I am here with a special pen from Peyton Street Pens. Uh, this is not a true unboxing because I have already unboxed it, and it's actually kind of funny because I unboxed it in front of my husband, and I opened this, and he was like, "You really should have filmed that because that reaction was hilarious." And I'll show you when I open this, you'll realize what I'm talking about. And as you can see, I have some ink on my hands. I have found that lava soap does work very well for getting ink off my hands, but I started this video before I realized that I had ink on my hands. So here we go. This is a preview of the ink you will see in this pen. So the reason why it is such a long box, you will understand here in a minute. So this is a Ranga Model 5. So when I originally opened the box, and this, believe it or not, this is a fountain pen, even though it looks, oh, sorry, even though it looks like a giant cigar, I opened it and I was like, oh my God, it's huge. Because it is huge. It is huger than any fountain pen I have gotten before. And it's actually so huge it will not fit in any of my pencil cases or pen cases, so I have to find a case for this. So like I said, this is the Ranga Model 5, and this is in the matte black. So this is made out of Ebonite, which is essentially hard rubber. I will go ahead and open it now so that you can see. So you can barely see the connection as to where the cap ends and the body begins. You can see that it does show fingerprints a little bit because I have been messing with it. Skin oils will kind of get off into it a little bit. But let me go ahead and uncap this. It does take quite a few turns to uncap. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 5 before you can get it off. And this part, unscrewing this part takes a lot more turns. I'm not even going to count, but I will show you here that it takes a lot of turns. I'm still turning. Okay, there we go. And I have a converter here for some reason. Oh, and I'm getting more ink on my fingers. Let me get that off real quick. And for some reason, this nib ate up a bunch of ink out of my converter, so I probably will need to do a top off fairly soon. I have tested this already, and I'm really glad I did because the first time I tested it, it wouldn't really start right up, so I had to fiddle with it a little bit. This is another custom nib from Peyton Street Pens. I got the broad Cursive Italic this time. And I did flush this pen beforehand because I have had issues with flushing or with not flushing a custom nib from them before, and it was just really scratchy as a result, and it was because there was some debris left in the nib. This washed out pretty smoothly. There wasn't really, there wasn't anything visible that I could see that came out of this nib because I did flush it before I even put ink in it. Okay, so let's go ahead and cap this back up. And actually, before I get to the writing sample, let me get that box off to the side. Oh, and I can show you as well. Yeah, so there's nothing private on here. So this is the little sheet that you get with your, you might get it with all the pens, but it also has the information about the custom grind. It's a broad cursive italic, a gold tone nib. There's no clip on the pen itself. You can order it with a clip, and it is the matte black color in Ebonite, and it is a Model 5. So this pen can be used with a cartridge or a converter like I've used it, or you can eyedropper fill. I probably will not eyedropper fill this just because I kind of like to see the level of ink that I have left. The converter only comes down to about here, so if you eyedroppered this pen, you could hold a ton of ink. I don't know technically how much a ton of ink is, but it's a lot. So let's go ahead and compare it to at least one other pen that I have on my desk. So this is the Pelikan M800 here. Let's get these in the light a little bit. Actually, let me go ahead and use, have some things on it there, but let me get it out. Let me go ahead and use this with my little pen holder from Galen Pens. Let's go ahead and put that. So this is a good example of a pen that will not fit because it is way too big. So you can fit the M800, but this will not fit. And like I was saying, I've had trouble finding, maybe this wasn't the best choice for this case because this won't fit in there. So let me put this off to the side again. But put that off to the side there. I will need to find a sort of special case for this because one of the things about Ebonite is that it will fade in the sun. So, and I have a lot of sun here in Colorado, so I don't really want to leave it exposed. For now, I'm just going to be leaving it in the box until I can get a solution for storing this. Now you may be asking yourself, okay, so one more comparison. This is a Retro 51 fountain pen, and just for kicks, this is the other pen I have on my desk. This is a Karas Customs Copper Mini, and of course that is kind of dwarfed by this large pen. So let me show it to you uncapped. I have to be careful not to get ink on my desk here. I'm just going to compare it uncapped with the Pelikan M800. It's quite a bit longer. So what I started to say is you may be asking yourself, why did you get this gigantic pen? Because my hands are super small. Why would you want a gigantic pen for your tiny little hands? Well, so even though this is pretty giant, it actually fits quite nicely in my hand. You could post it. It actually will post on the back here, but it's like, it's a little crazy. Oh, I do remember one pen that I wanted to compare this to. Let me get out my little case of mini pens or pocket pens, and I will show you a comparison. Let me unzip this here. Okay. So I kind of wanted to do a comparison to this little guy. This is the Platinum Glamour, which is an old style pocket pen from Japan. So the width, as far as the girth of the pen, is about the same actually between this little mini pen and this gigantic. I mean, it almost doesn't even fit in the frame. It's so huge. The girth is about the same on these two. And let's see, this is what I forget. Yeah, no, it pulls off. So I think the grip section is also about the same. This one obviously tapers down a little bit, and this is more consistent up and down. But the feel of it is very similar, actually, in my grip. And this is actually a very, very comfortable large size pen. I would not post it, obviously, because that would just be a little bit outrageous. Put that pen off to the side for now. But it's actually very, very comfortable. It's not super heavy. It is a very comfortable weight for my hand. And I have had some issues with, I don't know if it's arthritis necessarily, but I have a little bit of soreness in my thumb after I write for a little while with some pens. And part of it's because I think I hold my pens, especially the smaller the pen, the more I hold it like this. And then the larger the pen, I can hold it like that. So where I'm not flexing my thumb as much. So I kind of like that for just comfort of my hand. All right, well, now with all of that out of the way, let's go ahead and do a writing sample. So I have my Galen leather set up for testing pens. I may need to zoom out just a little bit so that you can see. And I marked off a page in here. Let's go ahead and get to that point there. And, oh, no, I'm going to go ahead and zoom back in. So I'm working with natural light today, which is a little bit less predictable than working with a light source. So let's see. All right, again, I am going to unscrew the cap, which does take a little bit of time. And then let's go ahead and test it here. So this is the Ranga Model 5 Ebonite in matte black. And this is with a broad cursive italic. Which is actually quite a nice nib. I might do a little bit of smoothing on this nib, as I may have said in a prior video that that now that I know how to smooth a nib and I'm not afraid of smoothing the nib, I have been smoothing all of my nibs that are in any way a little bit scratchy. This one is not scratchy necessarily, but it is a little sharp depending on the angle that you hold it. I think this nib grinder just likes a little bit of a sharper grind on their nibs because it seems to be pretty consistent between the sizes. But it writes beautifully. The ink that I have in here is Lamy Turquoise. Turquoise is always a hard word for me to write, which is a lovely ink. And so if I hold it flat like this, that's what you get in the way of loops. And then if I hold it to the total side, you get some thinner ones. And then if I hold it at my normal angle, you get somewhere in between. So normally I'm holding it at sort of a 45-degree angle, but sometimes it turns as I write. This particular nib seems to be somewhat forgiving. Like I said, I got this Cursive Italic nib directly from Peyton Street Pens. It seems like they are, for some of their nibs, they are not selling them individually anymore. They are only selling them with pens that you order. So just FYI for that, because you used to be able to get, oh my goodness, there must have been ink left on this grip section because I'm getting ink all over my hand here. They used to sell them individually, but it seems like maybe they're not doing that as much. Yeah, I can totally see where the ink is. Let me wipe that off real quick. Just got under that lip and I must not have wiped it off well enough. Okay, so let's move this up a little bit more. I am going to do the Quick Brown Fox. Okay, and then I'm going to do just regular writing. And this particular nib, I find that I am more often than not writing with the nib sort of perpendicular to the paper, just because that seems to be a more comfortable angle for this particular nib. And I just inked this up. So generally, after your ink has had a chance to sit in the pen for a little while, it will get a little bit better as far as the writing experience goes. And this also has an Ebonite feed, which tends to sort of absorb ink and then release ink into the nib itself, which is why it's a great feed, but sometimes in the beginning it can cause a little bit more lack of ink flow, I guess I should say. So this ink seems to actually, I've never used this particular Lamy ink before, and it does seem to be a little bit dry. Okay, so here's up and down, here's side to side. There's quite a bit of variation. Broad cursive italics are going to have the biggest variation between up and down and side to side of all of the italic style nibs. You can get, from most nib grinders, you can get a cursive italic in broad, medium, and fine, and sometimes extra fine. It just depends on the nib grinder. Okay, this pen is hard to get in any framing here. So I really do like it. It's very comfortable to write with. If you don't think that you will like a really big pen, this is probably not the pen for you, first off, but if you are open to a big pen and don't know, this one's fairly inexpensive. So the pen itself without the nib was $70, and then the nib itself added, I believe, it was either 40 or 45. So it's in the low 100s for this pen. I think it's actually quite a nice pen. It seems to be pretty popular with people who like large pens, because it is so comfortable to write with, and it's not super heavy, so you wouldn't have it wouldn't be weighing you down. I actually think that getting the M800 out again, I think the M800 is actually a little bit heavier than the Model 5, mostly because of its metal parts. Like the piston is made out of metal on this pen, and it tends to be a little heavier. But the difference is not that huge. But of course, once your cap is off, this is much lighter than this one, and it's quite a nice pen. I like it, and it writes well. I like this nib. I'm really liking the Cursive Italic nibs. I would have to say that as of now, my favorite nib grind is Cursive Italic for sure. And I would say maybe favorite nibs of any kind of nib is Cursive Italic at this point in time. I do like the broad because it gives you more variation. But you know, there is also variation between nib grinders on the nibs. What broad Cursive Italic means is they started with a broad nib and then they made it into a Cursive Italic nib from there. All right. Well, I think that is all I had for you today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask below. This is sort of a novelty. I probably will not be getting any pens that are this huge. Once again, this is probably the only pen that I need to have in my collection that's this huge. But I like it. Let's just say that. And I think what I might do as far as a case, I might end up trying to find some sort of padded pencil case that I could just put it in, because this could fill up a little pencil pouch pretty much on its own. So I might end up doing that. I know that Rickshaw Bagworks has some like that, so I might check them out. But anyway, that's all I had for you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.